Guess what? It's time for my recent reads. This is a video that I intend on making every Monday. And what my intent, sorry for moving the papers, is to tell you where I pick up on after I make my previous Monday's video. So if I go to my spreadsheet, the last book that I read on my video a week ago was The Cafe at Marigold Marina by Tilly Tennant. But that Monday, when I made that video, I was reading two books and I didn't get them read by the time I was ready to make the video. So I am including them in this because I didn't actually finish either of those. I finished one of them that Monday, but I finished the other one on Tuesday. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about all of these books. And I believe I read 15, believe it or not. And one thing that I did in my last video, and I'm going to try to do this every week, is to tell you what I plan on reading for the next week. Well, when I made my reading list for last week, I put 17 books on it. Of the 17, I only missed reading 5. So of that 17, I read 12 of the books that I lined up last week, but then I read 3 other books. So let's talk about what I went ahead and read. And like I said, we're going to talk about the first book that I was reading last Monday, and I finished Monday evening, was Summer at the Cape by RaeAnne Thayne. Now, Summer at the Cape was a really good book. A mother and her 2 daughters, Violet and Cammie. They came together because their younger sister Lily had died, but before Lily died, she was setting up kind of like a glam camp, like a glamping camp where you're camping, but it's with all kinds of amenities. Well, unfortunately, sadly, Lily died. So what we have in this particular book is how Cammie and Lily's twin Violet came to terms with it, but also their mother. And so that was a very good book, and I gave that one 4 stars. That one is already out. Actually, unless the book is not out, I'll tell you, and if I don't tell you a book's date, then assume that it's available. The next book I read was a book from last year, but I have a very, very long queue. And so my intent is to just grab 1 or 2 books every week from my backlist. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling down Instagram. I'm scrolling down Goodreads so I can just tickle my brain a little bit. Widow Falls was by Kiersten Modglin. Now, Kiersten Modglin, generally, the books that I have read by her are from the publisher called Bookouture. But she also self-publishes, and this book, Widow Falls, was self-published. Like I said, it came out last September, and it's about a woman named Sloan who took a job as a guide on like an upcoming rafting trip, but there was something happened there that Sloan found, and she kind of became a detective. It's not an amateur detective. It's not a cozy mystery, nothing like that. But the bottom line is Sloan wanted to know what it was that she found and how it connected to what ended up being is deaths in this location. And when Sloan took that job, she was replacing someone, and no one's talking about the woman she replaced. Where is she? What happened to her? So that was a very good book. I think it's another 4 stars for me. And I just got approved for another Kiersten Modglin book. And I'll tell you what that one is, since I love to read from the same authors. This book is Tell Me the Truth, that I will be reading by her, and it comes out May 10th. So in about 3 weeks, this book comes out, so I'll hopefully get it read by then. So that's Kiersten Modglin's, I have such a hard time saying her name, Kiersten Modglin's Widow Falls. Then I read The Breakdown by Arianne Richmonde. Now, this book was a whopper of a book. Okay, in this book, we have Celeste is a woman that was recovering from a car accident as well as a cesarean. But the thing is, she lost most of her memory. She had 2 small children already, and then she gave birth to a little girl. But the thing is, she doesn't remember the accident, and even more, she barely remembers her baby daughter that she gave birth to. Then the family hired a kind of like a part-time au pair, and when this woman was hired, I don't remember her name. What is her name? Anyway, when the au pair was hired, she found that things in the house were kind of weird. The husband had a very particular way of acting. Celeste was kind of childlike because her memory was short, but she loved being around her children. But then she had all these memory issues where she didn't even remember having a new baby. And then one child goes missing. So it becomes a convoluted mess for the au pair, and she's determined to get behind the scenes and to figure out what in the heck is going on. Now, this book was in multiple points of view, so it was fast-paced enough to keep me very, very interested in it. The next book I read was Murder at the Gardens by Lisa Cutts, and Murder at the Gardens is, I think, which number is this? Oh, it's only the 3rd book in the Belinda Penshurst mystery. It's a cozy mystery series. And we have Belinda, who is about to solve another murder. She's at this a place called Braeburn Gardens, and Braeburn Gardens is a deluxe zoo right dead smack in the middle of I guess, I'm not sure if it's in London, but it's in England. And now she's working at this private zoo, and her I don't want to say beau, but a man that she's very strongly attracted to, and vice versa, named Harry, he gets a job as security at the zoo. Well, somebody had died, and so Belinda is determined to solve the crime. Now, Harry is a former police detective, so who better to work with Belinda when it comes to her trying to figure out what happened to the man. I think his name was Simon, the man that died. And so then the book, I'm sorry about those alarms. And then the book was further complicated by the fact that Belinda's ex, Ivan, was also at the zoo. So Belinda starts to explore her past and possibly current feelings for Ivan. And where does this leave Harry? So that was a good one. Then the next one I read was Part of Your World by Abby Jiminez. Now, I think that review, I posted it to go up. I'm just trying to bring up my recent updates. I posted it to go up around 1 p.m. today, so this video will probably go up before Part of Your World. And that's only because I just have so many videos today. I just didn't want them all sitting right on top of each other. So I don't know why there we go. So Part of Your World I found to be a very, very, very good book. I reviewed this book on my channel as well as on my blog, and when you see the video review, you'll see that this book really, really affected me in a strong way. I don't even have it on my blog yet. I must have it as a, just give me a second. I must have it, where do I have part? I know that I wrote a review. See, this is what happens when you read dozens of books and then you try, okay, it doesn't look like I wrote this review, which is very strange. So I guess I will be doing that today. All right, so let's go back and see what Part of Your World is about, since yours truly did not write the review yet. I'm just trying to go back to Goodreads. Like I said, it's by Abby Jiminez, and now Part of Your World was an advanced reader's copy for me, but because I reviewed it after it came out, I was able to get it as a digital copy from my library. And that's always a bonus for me because it gives me a chance to get a kind of a deeper aspect of the story. And I'm sorry, you see me not just looking directly at the camera because I'm struggling with my devices, but what else is new? So I had this as an audiobook, and in this book we have a woman named Alexis Montgomery, and she is drawn to someone 10 years her junior. The thing is, when they meet, okay, quick summary. She goes to a wedding. She's driving home from the wedding. She has car trouble. He helps her with her car. And that's it. She'll never see him again. But then before she drives back home, she goes to a bar. Lo and behold, he's at the bar. So I guess the bartender saw her eyeing him. And the bartender says, oh, he's so-and-so. He's hot, isn't he? Or something along that line. So at some point, she made eye contact with him. But before he came over and approached her, his buddies had said, hey, I bet you won't get her to walk out of here with you or to go home with you. So they placed a bet. So at the point where they make eye contact, she goes over to him. And his name is Daniel Grant, by the way. But she goes over to him and he tells her outright, about the bet. And she's not put off. She's like, sit down for a few minutes. Let's make it look real. So they start talking and laughing. And they do leave together. Well, they end up in bed. But then when she gets up to go to the bathroom during the middle of the night, she stumbles over his wallet. His pants fall or something and his wallet falls. And she notices that he's 10 years younger. So she's out. She's gone. Bye. She was already on the rebound anyway. And now she slept with a man that is 10 years younger than she is. And then there's something about our heroine in this book, our female protagonist. Alexis was an emergency room doctor who came from a very, very rich family. And her family are icons at the hospital that she works on. I think it's a 125 or 150 year generation after generation after generation of this family working at this hospital. Most of them are surgeons. Her brother even is a surgeon. He's a plastic surgeon, but she becomes an emergency room doctor and she refuses to follow the path of becoming a surgeon. Then we have Daniel, who is a carpenter and a handyman. And so the balance, there was never a balance. The balance is off because of their age difference. But then the balance goes way off because of their class difference. And that was kind of a really good thing for me to read, because a lot of times when I read of class differences, it's when you're reading historical fiction or historical romance and say a duke likes a commoner or something like this. But this is modern day and there's still class distinctions. And I like how this was handled. And I like the journey that they took to get to where they had to be. So I've got to hurry up and write that book review because I believe it's due. I just don't know where it is. So that's part of your world. Then I read Watch Her Disappear by Lisa Regan, and it's the 14th book in the Detective Josie Quinn series. Love that series. I read all but the first two books, and I did get the first two from Amazon. I just haven't had time to read them yet. And in this particular case, Josie is called to a case where there's a body of a teen girl found. Okay, and the body of a camp counselor is found at the camp that Josie went to as a child. Okay, and nope, I'm sorry, I'm mixing up two books. Yes, this was a young girl that was found after like a high school dance. But the thing that makes this book so compelling is it's not just, quote, another case that Josie is on. This little girl, or this teen girl that was found dead, there were certain things about her murder that tell Josie at least two things. It tells her a lot, but at least these two things. Number one is it matches her, the MO matches some cold cases from 25 years earlier. Another thing that really stood out is, I'm going to mention three things. There was a certain tattoo that the killer put on the body. And then a third thing was, it appears that this girl possibly was held before she was killed. With all of those things in mind, Josie now has a race against time. But then remember I mentioned about the 25-year cold cases? Well, this involves her boss, Chief Robert Chitwood. And we see a different side to Chief Chitwood, and we also see how him and Josie end up working together. And this was probably the most emotional of all of the books I have read in this series because of what was going on with the Chief. Excellent, excellent book. The next book I read was Pesticide, and this is by Kim Hayes. This book was Scandinavian noir, or Nordic noir, based in Switzerland, Bern, Switzerland, and it's a police procedural novel. Very, very, very good book. Because it's based in Switzerland, and they use English, but they use very different dialects, several different languages and dialects. There was a brief introduction at the beginning to give you an idea on how to say these words in your head when you're reading them. I had no problem reading this book. No problem at all. It was very, very, very well written. It's the first book in the series, so it's called A Linda and Donatelli Mystery. And there's some romance in here, but it's a kind of a surprising romance based on the relationships that the protagonists have. You'll see when you see my review what is going on with them. So that was Pesticide. Then one day last week, I think it was Thursday, I was asked to do a beta read for Marcus, which was by Lori Foster. It's only a 90-page novella. Now, there was a second novella in the book, but I was only asked to proofread the first one, which is Marcus. That doesn't come out, I don't think, until June 1st, but I did make the video and write the review, but I won't post them until they're done. Basically, this was a novella that came from the Love Undercover series. Now, I have read close to 100 of Lori Foster's books, but there's 4 books in this Love Undercover series that I have not yet read. So once I get through my May blog tours, I will read those books and do a big series review. So that's Marcus. Then I read Silent Little Angels by Jennifer Chase. And Silent Little Angels is the 7th book in a series that I have read from the beginning. And it's the Detective Katie Scott series. Now, remember I talked about a camp counselor, and when I mixed up the 2 books, it's the covers. It's the covers that made me mix up the books. So I do apologize for that. But in this one, Silent Little Angels, that's when the camp counselor Carolyn had been killed. And it was a camp that Josie went to when she was a teenager. And she used to love going to that camp, everything about it. But at that time, her best friend Jenny disappeared and was never to be seen again. Then they find out that there were 2 other bodies on the campground, which makes it now a serial killer case. Then there's one other aspect. One of the bodies had some newspaper clippings of past cases that Katie solved. So those are all of the elements of this book that made it a really, really wonderful book. Then I read an anthology by Lori Foster, Fern Michaels, and Carolyn Brown. I haven't made the video, nor have I written this review yet. I will do that at some point today, maybe even tomorrow, because I don't think this comes out. It doesn't come out until the 26th, so I'm not in a rush to get this done. But you have 3 novellas, about 90 pages each, and they were all very good stories. And when you have good writers, they can take a story and capsulize it just right so that you can get satisfaction for a happily. I had to restart my laptop. I'm just trying to get it running. You have 3 different stories, all centered around Mother's Day, and they're all very good love stories. So I'm not going to say much more about that because I haven't even written anything on that, but that's in bloom. Then the next one I read was Take My Hand by Dolen Perkins-Valdez. She's a new author to me, but she is definitely going on my list for a must-read author. I will be reading more of her books. This book was a fictional story based on true historical events about 2 little girls who were sterilized in this governmental health program because there was an experiment / control where poor, Black, uneducated, or mentally challenged or mentally disabled people were being sterilized en masse. Most notably, those were of the Black race at that time. African American is what we refer to it as now, but they were Black girls who were sterilized against their will. But the book also talked about the Tuskegee experiment, which I had never heard of before. So I was able to research that, read some of the questions at the end of the book, and really get into this book. And this book hit me hard. If you watch that review, you'll see that it hit me hard. Then I read The Younger Wife by Sally Hepworth. Now, that was a good book, but I kind of got some spoilers of that book way before I read it. So I waited maybe like a week or so after the spoilers were said so that I could read the book and get my own, grasp on it. And I think I waited just long enough to do exactly that. And because I waited so long, it was available in audio, so I got it as an audiobook, which made it even that much better. In The Younger Wife, basically we have a husband who tells his adult daughters that he's about to get married to a woman who's younger than both of them. But the thing is, he's already married to their mother. Well, their mother has advanced dementia and she's in a home. So the husband's like, she won't even know. She doesn't even know you. She doesn't know me. So his conscience is going to allow him to marry this girl. Her name is Heather. Well, there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of pieces to this story. And it's kind of an open-ended story where you have to draw your own conclusions. Then I got this book for review called Girl Forgotten that comes out in August by Karin Slaughter. It's the second book in, let me see my currently reading. In the Andrea Oliver series. Now, I read this book last October, which came out in 2018, but I heard that there is a Netflix series, which I checked, and there's 8 episodes. So because I want to read Girl Forgotten long before August, I reread pieces of her, and sometime today I will binge watch the Netflix series. And it's basically about a woman who realized her mother had a lot of pieces about her that she did not know. And everything about this woman, Andrea, her life falls apart. And I'm just really excited to watch the series today so that I can go ahead and read the Girl Forgotten, which comes out in August. Then I read Garden of Secrets by Suzanne Kelman. Now, this was a dual timeline book, 1950, I believe, and 1940 and modern day. So World War II is going on. You have 2 female protagonists, past and present. The past female protagonist is in a situation where, with the war that's about to take place, the war that's going on, she becomes involved in a way that she never thought would happen. And the bottom line is, her mother died. Her father was like, you're going to get married to so-and-so, Ivan or Igor or whatever, because, we're broken. You're going to save us by marrying this. So that was the first piece of the drama that led her to leave home. And the second thing is, she was an English-speaking German, so she took, Russian, and she took a role as a Russian spy working with the Nazis. She didn't realize the depth of her commitment, and she became what was called a land girl, where they had specific jobs, and in her job she was paired with someone named Nikolai, and there is something that brewed between the two of them. And then you have the modern day story where a woman who found out her man was cheating on her, so she rushes off and she ends up in a place where it's the garden, because the book is called Garden of Secrets. Well, just like in 1940, which I didn't mention, there was a garden that Nikolai and our female protagonist had a role in their relationship. And now in modern day, there's this garden, and when the woman is wandering about, she finds like a little cigarette box, and it had a key in it, and it had a ration card with some words. I think it said on there, Grace Mayer. And she wanted to know, what does Grace Mayer mean? And discovered that this thing that she found was over 75 years old. So it was a little bit of mystery in this historical fiction. So that was a really, really good book. And the last book I read in this batch was The No Show by Beth O'Leary. Now, it's called The No Show because 3 women had dates for Valentine's Day, and all 3 women were stood up. What's more is the 3 women were complete strangers to one another, but then there's something else. The one man that they were waiting for was the same man for each woman. His name was Joseph Carter. So you have Siobhan, you had Miranda, and you had Jane, and now you have Joseph. And so you're like, am I going to read a book about cheaters? Because I don't want to read about cheaters. But I had committed to this for a blog tour, so I read it anyway. But I cheated a little bit because I read it after it was released, so therefore I was able to get it as an audiobook through Overdrive from my library. And I'm so glad I did, because it had 3 female narrators for the 3 girls, and it also had a male narrator for Joseph's role. And I will tell you, it was a really good book. It is considered romantic comedy. If you look at the cover, it looks like it's a romantic comedy, but I found some very, very serious moments in this book. So it made it evenly balanced, evenly paced, and you had to decide. Well, let's put it like this: there was a reveal, because it's called a rom-com, romantic comedy. So if it's a romance, somebody was going to have a happily ever after. Question is who? And you have to read it to find out. So those are the 15 books that I read. And like I said, last week I wanted to read 18 books, I think. Let me try to, why can't I? Trying to get this so I can, there we go. So last week I was going to read, I had laid out 18 books, 17 books. And I read all but 4, as I might have mentioned. But the books that I picked up this week that weren't in last week's plan was Garden of Secrets, and I don't see it on here. I didn't plan on reading Pieces of Her in Garden of Secrets, and in Marcus by Lori Foster. So those were the 3 that I added in. And then now I can tell you, I just had to figure out which ones I left off. So what I do is, when I make a reading list and I don't get to all the books on a reading list, I roll them over into the next week. And if I don't get to them, I roll them over again, which means ultimately I will get to them. So what am I going to read for this week coming up? I've got another 15 books. I'll tell you each of them, and I will put the book covers up, and if you want to read them or look them up, you can go right ahead. The first one is Business Not As Usual by Sharon C. Cooper. I am going to use my iPad so that I can tell you about them. The next one is Every Summer After by Kali Fortune. Now, this one and, Business Not As Usual is not for a blog tour. It's just a book review. But Every Summer After by Kali Fortune, that is for a blog tour. Another blog tour book, and this is a Christian historical fiction, so I'm curious to see how this will go, and it's called A Perilous Perspective by Anna Lee Huber. Then for a blog tour, I have The Widow's Husband by Leslie Sanderson. The Lighthouse Girls by B.R. Spangler, and this is Detective Casey White, Book 6, and if I'm not mistaken, I have read all of the books in that series already. Then I have The Wrong Victim by Allison Brennan. I think I've had this book for maybe 4 months, but time. How much time do we have? Then I have another book, A Body on the Beach by Dee McDonald. It's got a lighthouse on the cover, and lighthouses are my favorite thing ever. But anyway, it's part of a series that I've read the previous books of. And then I have The Trapped Ones by Stacy Green, which is the 5th book in the Detective Nikki Hunt series. Well, I read books 1, 2, and 3, but I never read book 4, which is The Girl in the Ground. So I'm going to have both of these up. So I will be reading The Girl in the Ground and the trap ones. And like I said, they'll both be up there when I edit this. And then, yes, I still have Unmasked. I know, I said I've been showing you this for weeks, but guess what? It is, I think, book number 2 or 3 for this coming week. So this is going to be read pretty early. So that's Unmasked by Paul Holes, I'm sorry. And then I have, for a blog tour, I have Deadly Director's Cut. So I'm going to pop up 2 books here. And that is the second book for the Catskill Summer Resort Mystery series. And I'm pretty sure it's Cozy Mystery, but we'll find out. So since I have book 2, I went ahead to my library and I got the first one, which is Deadly Summer Nights. So I'll be reading both of those. And then just 3 more. My 7 Black Fathers by Will Jiminez. And I probably have told you about that a couple of times, but it's a young activist memoir of race, family, and the mentors who made him whole. Gotta read that one. Then I have The Girl from Lamaha Street by Sharon Moss. And this is about a Guyanese girl at a 1960s English boarding school and her search for belonging. Both of those look really good. I've been planning to read them all month, but I'm finally going to get to them this week. And then I have Shadows in the Mind's Eye by Jane Eyre Trump. I don't remember much about this book other than I was asked to read it for a blog tour, so I will be reading it. So those are the 15 books that I have lined up, and I guess that's it. So you got a brief review for the other books that I read, and then you will have, I will tell you next week if I read any or all of those 15 books that I've got lined up. So I want to thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.